Okay, so my name is Denisha McDonald, and tonight we are going to discuss Section 8 to homeownership and that process. This is in partnership with Sage on Fountain, a development project, Our Village Initiative, Thumbprint Realty, Boston Housing Authority, Compass Working Capital, and Needham Bank. So we want to thank all of our partners for joining us tonight to put on this session and hopefully give you guys a clearer understanding of how to leverage your voucher to purchase a home. Our rundown or our agenda for tonight, we're going to talk about the process from the Housing Authority standpoint. And I want to make you guys aware, we're going to focus on Boston Housing Authority. They're presenting tonight. Even if you have another housing provider, that is okay. The process is very similar, if not identical. So the information you can transfer to whichever housing authority you are with, as long as they offer the Section 8 to homeownership voucher program. After this event, I will send you guys the list of housing authorities that do offer it and the contact information for the others so you can inquire if yours has it or not. Okay, so we're going to talk about the process, and then that's from the housing authority standpoint. Then we're going to talk about the process from the lender standpoint and what they need in order for you to be able to purchase. And then what happens if you want to buy, but your finances aren't where they need to be? We're going to discuss that as well. And finally, we're going to go over an actual home ownership opportunity for those of you who are ready this year that you can apply for to potentially be a homeowner by the end of 2022. So right now, first up, we'll have Miss Laureen McCollin Gopi from Boston Housing Authority, and she's going to present to you guys kind of the process from their perspective.
Hi, my name is Laureen McCollin Gopi, and I'm the Assistant Director of the Boston Housing Authority, and I oversee the Family Self-Sufficiency Program and the Home Ownership Voucher Program. To date, we have approximately 35 participants who have home ownership vouchers. So I'd like to tell you about how the program works. Boston Housing Authority Home Ownership Voucher Program. How to become eligible. You and everyone in your household must be a first-time home buyer. No one in your household may have owned or had ownership in any residential property for the past 3 years. You must have good credit. Lenders typically look for a credit score of at least 640 in reviewing a mortgage application. BHA's effective payment standard schedule is applied in determining the amount of subsidy your family is eligible for in the program. Next. Next slide. How do I become eligible? You must have completed a first-time home buyers program that's offered in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. You must be pre-approved from a lender for a mortgage. You also must have 3% of the purchase price of the home available for a down payment, of which 1.5% of the purchase price must come from your own funds. Minimum income requirements. Qualified annual income of the adult family member who will own their own home. Must not be less than the federal minimum hourly wage multiplied by 2,000 hours. For disabled families, must not be less than the monthly federal supplemental security income, or SSI, for an individual living alone multiplied by 12. Except in the case of an elderly family, welfare assistance is not counted in determining whether the family meets the minimum income requirement.
I do have a question for you, Laureen. So it says here, must not be less than the federal minimum hourly, 2,000 hours. What does that work out? I guess, how does that work for potential participants? What does that ultimately mean from the BHA standpoint?
Okay, they're looking at an individual working at least 32 hours weekly. So that's what it comes out to be.
Okay, so for those of you listening, when they say your minimum hourly wage multiplied by 2,000 hours, it means you're working at least 32 hours a week.
Yes. Next. Employment requirement. One or more adults in a family who will own the home must be currently employed on a full-time basis, not less than 30 hours a week. Consistently employed on a full-time basis for at least 1 year before commencement of ownership assistance. Please note, most lenders need 2 years of full-time employment to qualify for a mortgage. Except in the case of the elderly families, the employment requirement does not apply to an elderly or disabled family. Unit requirements. The unit must meet all requirements as outlined under 24 CFR 982.628, including a satisfactory home inspection conducted by an independent inspector selected and hired by the family, and a satisfactory home inspection conducted by the BHA to determine that the unit complies with housing quality standards, which is a HQS.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Laureen. So now we're going to look at what is the process from the lender's perspective. And we're going to have Mr. Wilfred Edwards of Needham Bank providing you guys with that information.
Okay, good evening all. My name is Wilfred Edwards. I'm a loan officer at Needham Bank, and I've been doing the Section 8 for home ownership program now for quite a number of years, probably 15 years plus. In introducing my section, I should tell you that in order to qualify for the Section 8 for home ownership, or the requirements for qualifying for the Section 8 home ownership are additions on top of the regular qualification. So in order to, what I mean by that is that you must be able to qualify for a mortgage on using the regular guidelines. Section 8 for home ownership only help you or help those who are voucher recipients to qualify with the subsidy coming from the Boston Housing Authority or the other participating housing authorities. Why I mention that is the typical borrower must have at least 2 years of consistent work history. The only exception to that being persons who are disabled, persons who are using Social Security income as their source of income. Those persons can use that instead of the 2-year work history. Now, the minimum score for the Mass Housing Partnership, the one mortgage, is 640. There may be some other programs that your respective lender or participating lenders, whoever they may be, could allow or could have minimum credit scores different from 640. But the majority of the home ownership programs, Section 8 for home ownership programs, are run through the MHP1 mortgage. MHP1 mortgage calls for 3%, a down payment of 3% down, and at least 1.5% being your own monies. Documents that are needed for any mortgage program, Section 8 for home ownership included, are 2 years of federal tax returns, 2 years of W-2s or 1099s for self-employed, 2 months of bank statements, and 2 months of pay stubs. Or if you're not employed, you must provide us with your Social Security award letters, and you would also have to show us that you are actually receiving that money on a monthly basis. Next.
Okay, so I will go to the next slide, but for those of you, I do see questions in the chat. If you have questions, please put them in the chat, and once we are finished, I'm going to go through the chat and review all of those questions, and some of them may be answered throughout this presentation. Yes, at the end of this, we will send out the slides so you guys have it. I created a checklist that summarizes all of these slides for you, so you know exactly what you need to do in terms of next steps. So you'll receive that at the end of this presentation as well.
Okay, once you have gathered your regular documentation, I'll repeat again, your 2 years of federal taxes, W-2s, bank statements, and pay stubs, your next step would be to compile a list of 5 possible cities or towns that you will be targeting to buy in. The reason for this is that once you get a pre-qualification or pre-approval for one property in a city or town, that may not work for you, because a realtor can pick you up on a Saturday or a weekend or whatever, and he can move from property to property, which may cover different cities or towns, and in the case of Boston, different zip codes. The reason why we are suggesting that you select 5 possible cities or towns or zip codes is to eliminate the disappointment in you not being able to buy a property, even though you have a pre-approved letter. Because I will reiterate that a pre-approved letter for, let's say, Boston would be different from a pre-approved letter for Brockton, or for Somerville, or for Taunton, or for Fall River. Even within the city of Boston itself, a pre-approved letter for zip code 02121 could be different from 02126, could be different from 02125, etc. So it is important that you think about where you want to purchase, make a list of those, and then you approach your housing authority and ask them for an eligibility letter. The eligibility letter will contain the payment, the housing assistance payment for the respective towns that you have chosen. For example, even using Brockton as an example, some parts of Brockton, the HAP payment for some individuals, and that could be $841 for 02301, and it could be about $880 for the other 0212302. Just to give you an example, it's important that you zero in on the cities and towns before you go to the housing authority. Once you go to the housing authority, the information you give to the housing authority must be consistent with the information that you're planning to give to the bank, or the information you give to the bank must be consistent with the information you give to the housing authority. Because once the bank qualifies you, that is not the end of the process. After we qualify you, you find a house, we do the application and so on. When that process is completed by the bank, we have to send that paperwork back to the housing authority for the final sign off. Remember, the housing authority is the agency that is going to be paying a part of your monthly mortgage. If they do not sign off because of inconsistency with the information you give the bank as opposed to the information you give to them, the whole mortgage payment will be your responsibility. Okay, now the borrower is responsible for making the payment to the bank. So the housing authority will send you their information. Sorry, will send you their subsidy, and you will make the payment to the bank on a monthly basis. If housing authority never sends you that subsidy, you're responsible for making that full mortgage payment. Next. Banks perform preliminary analysis and prepare a pre-approval worksheet to send off to Mass Housing Partnership. Banks issue pre-qualification letters to applicants. Banks rerun numbers based on the borrower's accepted offer. If the numbers based on the found property remains within guidelines, applications become live. When application is approved, bank sends final documents, as I said earlier, to the housing authority for final sign off. Next. What does the housing authority do? The housing authority After the loan closes, the housing authority orders an appropriate inspection to ensure that the property, it conforms to their standards and regulations and guidelines. Once that is taken care of and it is satisfactory to the housing authority initiates their monthly subsidy to you. Next. That's it. You're on mute. Denisha, you're on mute. Yep.
So I see a lot of questions in the chat. We will get to those at the end of the presentation. We want to just kind of get through to make sure you guys understand, at least hear the process, and then we can address each piece. Because I think some of the questions have been answered so far. I will ask, next we have Miss LaShonda coming up, Watson, to talk about Compass's program. Slow down just a little bit. I think we're going too fast for some folks. So if we can just slow down just a little bit to make sure that they understand everything. And again, make sure you're putting all of your questions in the chat. I promise we'll get to them at the end of the session, okay? LaShonda? Let's see.
Thank you. Sorry, it was locked. I couldn't come off mute.
I know exactly.
I was with you. I was with y'all the whole time. So thank you so much, Denisha, for having me and allowing me to come here and talk about this amazing program, to share this platform with our friends at BHA and Needham Bank. And I just want to acknowledge some folks in the room. I have some friends on the Zoom that have joined me from Compass, and it's just such a pleasure to be here. So who is Compass, right? So Compass Working Capital is a nonprofit organization that is completely separate from your housing provider. And we provide financial coaching and savings programs that support families with low incomes to build assets, achieve their financial goals, and to work towards financial security. And most of all, our services are absolutely at no out-of-pocket cost to you. So on average, our clients build a savings of around $7,800 in savings in funds, in escrow funds. And they increase their score by around 69 points on average and reduce their debt by around 2,100. Now, just bear in mind that these numbers fluctuate based on each individual's goals. I've seen some people escrow far beyond 7,800. And then I've seen some people not escrow at all. It all depends on every person's journey. It's a little bit different. So we're going to keep this presentation laser beam focused on the home buying process, but I want to just mention that Compass does offer just a menu of other financial services that you might find of interest. And I'm always happy to have that conversation with folks offline. But for now, we're just going to give you a sample of the goodness that Compass has. So to buy a home, some of the things that we can help you with is improving your credit, to pay off debt, pursuing a career that you love, or going back to school. So this is how it works. So you're eligible for an FSS savings account, and that part is managed by your housing provider. You also are eligible for a financial coach at no cost to you. And then you would work with your financial coach towards the goals that you set for yourself. And you are always in the driver's seat of this process. We like to say that you are the expert in your own life. You know what you want, you know what you're looking for. We're here to help with strategy, we're here to help with referrals, and we're here to help with resources to get you to that final destination, sort of as like a passenger on your ride to your final destination. And I will say that this program can last up to 5 years, but if you meet your graduation requirements earlier, you can leave when you're ready. So we're just going to give you just a little example using this person, Tiffany. I want to say that coming into the program, whatever income you're making is your baseline. So the idea to start to see savings is that you both earn above the baseline income that you were making coming in, and at the same time see your rent increase to see the difference. So in this example, Tiffany was making $16,000 per year of earned income. And let me just be clear that this savings is directly tied to working income, or earned income as we like to call it. And so in this example, she's making $16,000 a year coming in, and she's paying $400 a month in rent. So Tiffany gets a promotion. Congratulations. Her earned income goes up to $24K a year. And now she has to pay $600 a month in rent. So that $200 difference between the $400 that she was paying and the $600 that she will be paying in the future is going to go into a savings for her. Now, month after month, BHA is going to make a $200 deposit for Tiffany. Now, at the end of 12 months, that $200 deposit is $2,400 of savings. And that's all money that the Housing Authority is putting in on Tiffany's behalf. So Tiffany would just pay her rent on the front end like she always does to her landlord. But on the back end, she's got the security of this savings nest egg that's being built for her that she can use towards her homeownership goals, if that's what she chooses. And that's just an example of all of those $200 a month deposits going in over the course of the year, and boom, her piggy bank is growing. So now if she sticks around for 5 full years to maximize on those savings, that's $9,000 in free money that Tiffany has gained simply by doing one thing: going to work and paying her rent like she always would. That's got better returns than my 401k, y'all. I don't know about you. So, okay, I'm just gonna throw out a couple of FAQs. So how do you begin savings? So like we mentioned before, housing provider will begin to deposit money in your FSS savings after you report an income increase from anyone in the household and you begin to pay your new rent. So, oh yeah, that's the part that I forgot to mention. So any working person's income in that household that's under your voucher is going to start to help you build these savings. So if you've got a spouse or a child that's working, all of your working income is going into the pot. That's awesome. So does it include all income? So unfortunately, like I mentioned before, this is tied to working income. So you have to be working in order to start to see those savings. So deposits from the FSS savings account only occur when your rent due to earned income increases. Now, earned income is money received from employment, and it does not include other sources like child support or Social Security or cash assistance or unemployment, unfortunately. So what if your earned income never increases? So if your earned income never increases, then you wouldn't start to see those savings. But you can absolutely still take advantage of the financial coach, and still work on your debt, still work on, building your credit and all of those other pieces, that you kind of have to get in order to get to that goal of home ownership. So do you have direct access to the account? So the short answer is no, you don't have direct access. However, you can request money for eligible expenses to help you make progress towards your goals while you're in the program, and that's called an interim withdrawal. To do this, you must be in the program for at least 6 months, and your request must be approved by both Compass and your housing authority. And your financial coach will work with you to facilitate that request. So how do you know how much is in the account? So your housing provider is going to report balances to Compass on a regular basis, and you'll get a statement with your balance. And you can request that from your financial coach. So, this is a picture of a real client and a real coach at Compass. We're so great about celebrating the successes of our clients. I'm actually a product of that. For 2 years before I even became a Compass employee, I sat on their client advisory board. And before that, I'm a graduate of the FSS program. So Compass is so real about just really uplifting client voices. And so many of the changes that you see through Compass today came from direct feedback from our clients. So we celebrate that. So what is financial coaching? It's really just a partnership. So the Compass Financial Coach is a partner to you and will provide resources and information, accountability, and support, as well as track your progress on your goals, just to help you successfully get there. I want to say our coaches, this is a premium experience. Our coaches, many of them own and operate businesses outside of Compass. Many of them are coming from private sector, coming from the banking industries and bringing real life experience to you. They're required to go for regular professional development. So these services are top notch. And it's at no cost to you. I just really say, take advantage, really take advantage of this opportunity to pick their brains and use this to get ahead. And it's a judgment-free zone. The information that you share with your coaches is really kept confidential. Come in as you are. Don't be afraid to lay it all out, because this is your journey. And I can tell you, I was a financial mess when I came into Compass. I didn't have a bank account. I didn't have access to credit. And I'm telling you, after they were done with me, because the first thing I said to my coach was, if you can fix me, this program works. And I'm here speaking as an employee because this program works. It really was, for me, less about the money, although the money is attractive, don't get me wrong. But long after the money was spent, it was those tools that I received from my coach that really helped propel me forward in my life. So definitely take advantage. And there are, like I mentioned earlier, a menu of things that our coaches can help with. Help you lower your expenses, help you with credit and how to manage your debt, emergency savings, you name it. And again, I'm gonna definitely drop my information in the chat. So, this is just a slice, just a little tidbit or a sample of what we have to offer. So don't think that just because the info session ends today that the conversation has to. You can absolutely reach out to the outreach team. So how often do you meet with your coach? So the first year, there are 4 required appointments. So you meet about every 3 months or so, just to, start to build some momentum on those goals and to really start to build that relationship with your coach. And the second year, 2 and beyond, it's about every 6 months. But if you need to meet more frequently, especially working on a home ownership goal, you can do that. You just, you meet with your coach to figure out what makes sense for you. And we're available by phone and online right now. Unfortunately, our offices are closed for in-person appointments at the moment until it's safe enough to do so, but absolutely have access to your coach via phone and video chat. So just to go over some of the program, the graduation requirements, you have to be working. Now, just have suitable employment, whether that's full-time, part-time, you determine. But again, if your goal is to get into the Section 8 to homeownership program, you might want to closely follow those guidelines to figure out what would be the minimum number of hours you need to work. Meet regularly with your financial coach. And again, just to remind you, it's every 3 months the first year, year 2 and beyond, it's every 6 months or so. Be off of any cash welfare assistance 1 full year before graduating. So that's 12 consecutive months. And that includes all household members. So just like all household members' income can count towards your savings, also all household members impact your ability to graduate. So they all have to be off of cash welfare assistance before you can take the money and run. And also just be in compliance with your lease. That's it. That is it.
Thank you so much, LaShonda. I think Compass is an amazing program. I love it, and I send everyone to you guys who's thinking about buying, or even when they're just trying to get their finances in order. Not everyone wants to have a voucher forever, and they're trying to, they just need help in terms of having a plan of how to kind of come off of it and be a little bit more self-sustained. So I think I love it. And I think it provides a great support system for participants. So thank you.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm going to drop my information in the chat for anybody who wants to continue the conversation.
And we're not done yet, guys. So if you, let's say right now, you're saying, I have everything. I check all the boxes from what the lender is saying, from what the housing authority is saying. So I don't need any more help. I can go look for a house now, but I don't know where to look. We have a project that may work for a lot of you. So I'm going to present on that tonight. It's called Sage on Fountain. It is a new construction condo building in Roxbury at 25 Fountain Street. So if you're going to go drive by there now, you would probably see just the foundation. They're building it as we speak. It is going to be 40 condo units for sale. There will be 40 parking spaces. So they also took care of parking to make sure that you didn't have to worry about that. There are 40 bike storage spaces as well. So if you prefer to be a little bit more eco-friendly, you have bike storage there. And then there are several amenities. So we're going to go over that tonight and give you guys a little bit tidbit on the project. I encourage you to stay till the end. Once I'm finished presenting, we're going to go over all of the questions that you guys, the chat was blowing up throughout this entire presentation. So we're going to go and answer all of your questions and make sure that you guys understand the process, understand next steps, so that you can become a homeowner. As long as you're committed to yourself, you have a team that can get you there, okay? So to the top right has the little QR code. If you wanted to scan that to get information on the Sage on Fountain project as we go through the presentation, feel free to do that and enter your information and we will follow up with you. So, like I said, it's 40 units, a combination. It ranges from studios to 3-bedroom units. And I'm giving you just kind of an overview of what the project looks like. For the studio units, it's quite spacious. It's about 600 square feet of living space. And if you look at the floor plan, it's not what we traditionally think of a studio to look like. Your living room is not your bedroom, is not your dining room in this design. You actually have a separate sleeping quarter. So your bedroom is separate from the rest of the living area. And we are able to call it a studio because the wall facing the living room is kind of like a 3/4 wall. So it's not all the way up to the ceiling. So light comes in and that you can still hear what's going on outside. You do have a door, but it is separated. So you can see in the photo to the bottom right, kind of what it would look like. So there's a little space at the top and you do have a sliding door for privacy. Your closet would be in the hallway. So that's the only difference from it compared to, a traditional 1-bedroom unit. Now we have the floor plan for a 1-bedroom and what that looks like. It's about 700 square feet, so a little bit bigger. You'll have your walk-in closet in your unit. And again, I think everyone loves the open concept living room, dining room, kitchen, so you can just see out once you enter. And each unit does have washer and dryer hookup. So you will have, the ability to do all of that within your unit and not have to leave. The 2-bedroom unit is about 1,000 square feet. And as you can see with the layout, it's always trying to make sure that you have a lot of natural light coming in. It's open concept and flows pretty nicely. And I think there's an adequate storage space for you as well. So looking at the photos on the right, you can have a better view or understanding of what it's going to look like once it's complete. If you visit the website, sageonfountain.com, you can actually click through and do a tour of each unit type so you get a better feel of what the space is like when you live there. And then finally, we have our 3-bedroom unit. It's about 1,500 square feet. It's going to be 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. So you'll have your master suite with their master bathroom and then the general bathroom for everyone else. And again, trying to stick with that open concept so you have a little bit more flexibility in how to best utilize the space. With a condo unit building, we want to make sure that you have amenities so it doesn't feel exactly like, I think traditionally when people think of condos, they think of just a triple-decker converted into a condo, or you're living in an apartment building and they call it a condo. Trying to create more of that luxury feel at an affordable price for you. You'll enter and you'll have your package area. I think we've seen in the past couple of years, especially with COVID, we all order from Amazon and online and it gets delivered and people come and swipe your stuff. So now we have the package room so that they deliver it in there. It's secure, so people are not taking it. And if someone from within the building takes it, guess what? There are security cameras, so they will not be incentivized to do that, right? You look at the layout for the lobby area. It's open, great for when you have to wait for your Uber or for anyone coming in. You'll have your mailboxes there. And we'll also have bike storage. So all of your bike storage would be on this main floor as well. We want to have space for you to entertain. So you can take your gatherings from your unit and put it in the common area if you want to have a larger gathering and not have people in your condo per se. So there'll be a little kitchenette area for you to entertain if you're having a large group and there's food and you need to heat your food up or anything like that. It opens out to the exterior entertaining area as well, which we will see in the next slide. You have a lounge or a seating area so that, again, if you want to watch the game or a specific launch or premiere, you can do that in this area as well. If you want to just meet the rest of your neighbors, right, you guys can gather in this common space. We believe in wellness and holistic care. So we will have a wellness studio where you can, again, work out, do some yoga, whatever works for you in that wellness studio. And then we've designed 2 work pods. So if you have to work from home and you don't really want to be in your unit, you want a change of scenery, come downstairs and use the work pod so that you can have meetings or just conduct, your work day in a different scenery. For the outdoor amenity space, we try to make it multi-purpose and multifunctional. So you have room for outdoor entertaining. You have a paved plaza. We'll have a grassy area for the kids and if you have pets, and we'll also have a garden bed. And I want to make sure and just state that a lot of the design and this project came from community feedback. We held focus groups, we connected with the neighbors and the community and people who would like to live in a project like this to get feedback on what they want to see in the project. So everything that you guys are seeing here came from feedback from folks like you and doing outreach to the community to find out exactly what you wanted. So we have a garden bed, we have area for pets and walking your pets. And as you can see out here, some of our outdoor parking spaces, we also have beneath the building, so underground parking as well. So you might be asking, this sounds amazing. How much is it? How do I buy, right? So what does that look like? It is an income restricted project. So it's 100%, all of the units are affordable and deed restricted, and we'll go over that next. And you do have to qualify based on your income. So the income, we'll just look at the right column because that would be the upper limit period for the program. If you are a 1-person household, you need to make at or below 84,600. So if you're making 50,000, you're making 60,000, guess what? You qualify. If you're making 90,000, you do not qualify because you make too much money for this project. So this is geared towards helping those who are priced out of the current Boston housing market. And really, these prices, once you guys see them, it's if you're priced out of Brockton as well, right? The prices are really great so that you can optimize on it. And if you are a 6-person household, for example, you're allowed to make up to $140,150. So as long as you're below these numbers, you could qualify for this opportunity. What does that look like in terms of sales prices and housing cost? I think some of us, if you're actively looking to buy right now, the sales price is important and you understand what that means. But if you haven't started that process, what does it look like from a housing or rental standpoint in terms of numbers, right? So at the studio level for the 80% of area median income tier, your all-in housing cost would be about $1,300, right? Give or take. And I want to say these are based on cost estimates on the market in terms of interest rates and all of that with the lender and your particular buyer profile. So these numbers are subject to change based on the market that we have no control over. So you're about $1,300, whereas market rent is about $1,700 for a studio. Keep in mind, you would own this, you're not renting it, so it's yours. No one's coming to tell you move because they're raising rent, okay? For the 1 bedroom, you're looking at about $1,500 all in housing costs. So that's including your condo fees, taxes, insurance, all of those things that come along with owning a home. The 2 bedrooms would be about $1,700, and the 3 bedroom would be about $1,900. And when we're comparing that to what you would be paying for market rent in today's market, it's a huge savings. So again, the developer wanted to make these so that those who are priced out of the current market have an opportunity to own. And this session is because, again, if you have a voucher, you can leverage your voucher to help make this even more affordable for you. For the upper tier, so for our 100% of area median income, so those who earn a little bit more, these are the sales prices and what the numbers work out to be. So your housing cost would be about $1,600 for the studio. It'd be about $1,900 for the 1 bedroom, $2,100 for the 2 bedroom, and about $2,400 for the 3 bedroom. So you see the numbers change a little bit. And again, these numbers fluctuate depending on your profile. So what's your credit score, what's your debt to income, all of those things play a role in terms of how much you would actually end up paying on a monthly basis to own these properties. And we're using the sales prices based off of the 2021 BPDA sales prices. So how many units of each type are there in this project? So there are, let's see, what is that? 13 studios. There are 19 1 bedrooms, 6 2 bedrooms, and 2 3 bedroom units. So it's heavily based for those who, again, have smaller household sizes and cannot afford to buy in Boston, creating an opportunity for you to get a start so that you can own and transition and kind of grow and build from there. There are opportunities, again, across all household sizes and income tiers, so that we do have ranging from the studio to the 3 bedroom unit type. What does this look like when we compare renting to owning in terms of your initial cost? So I went through and did some rough estimates in terms of the math. If you are renting in Boston right now, and we're thinking of first last security broker's fee, you are paying between $5,000 and $11,000 to move into a unit, whether it's a studio or a 3 bedroom. That's kind of the price range for those in terms of your moving cost. When you look at a 3 bedroom and see that you need $11,000 to move in, that's pretty much the down payment on a house to help put things into perspective, right? So what we're saying is, if you are eligible for this program or for this housing opportunity, you would need about between $2,400, we'll say $2,500 to $8,000 to move in at the 80% income tier, and between $3,000 and $11,000 to own at the 100% AMI income tier. So you can see that it is cheaper in some cases, or about the same for you to own in terms of move-in cost as it is to rent. And hopefully that motivates a lot of you to think seriously about owning as opposed to renting, and setting up the steps and the procedures so that you can be successful on your journey. These numbers, again, are based on looking at, if you use the One Plus Boston program, for example, you only need 1.5% of the money to come from your funds, and the balance can be a gift or through any of the down payment assistance programs. So looking at all of those things, kind of what is your all-in cost? So how do I qualify for this, right? What are the guidelines, and then what are the restrictions? Because I did say these were affordable units, right? So you must be a first-time home buyer. You cannot own a house already. You are on this call tonight for the Section 8 to home ownership, which means you do not currently own. So you all are eligible on checking that first box. You must qualify based on the income guideline. So again, you need to make at or below the numbers that I said before. We will share this with you, so don't worry. You'll get a handout with all of the information. You must obtain a pre-approval from a lender. So Wilfred talked about earlier, what are the qualifications that a lender would need? right? What are the documents that they need? What's the credit score that they need? You have to check all those boxes and get a pre-approval in the amount of the sales prices of these units to qualify, right? Or to be able to apply. It must be owner occupied. So you cannot purchase this and then turn it into a rental unit. You have to live in the unit because it is meant for first-time home buyers, and it is meant to make it affordable for you to be able to stay in the city, not for you to profit off of the unit. You can use your Section 8 voucher to purchase, and selection is based on lottery. So you guys, we go through the process to make sure that you qualify, that you can apply, and then there will be a lottery later on this year so that, again, you have the opportunity or equal opportunity to own one of these units. So like I said, there are deed restrictions. It must be owner occupied for 30 years. And what that means is, as long as you own it within those 30 years, you have to live in it. If you decide to sell after 5 years, if you decide to sell after 10 years, that's fine, you can sell it. It's just as long as you own it within those 30, you do need to live in it. You cannot just turn it into a rental property. There is a resale cap. So whereas the neighborhood might go from, well, Roxbury is a perfect example. 10 years ago, Roxbury, you could have bought a 3-family for like $400,000, $300,000. Now it's 1 point something million for a 3-family in Roxbury. So if that continues to happen, there is a cap. They allow you to gain equity or appreciation in your home about 3% every year. So you do get to increase your home value every year. It just won't be at the same pace as the neighborhood per se, depending on what's going on with the market. So you are allowed to build wealth, and you are allowed to build equity. It's just not necessarily always at the same pace of the market. So what is the timeline for this particular project? So again, right now we're helping people just know about the project, because what we've seen in the past is people care and want to buy after the building's up and finished. At that point, if you haven't been working on your credit and everything else, it's too late and you've missed the opportunity. So what we want to do is help you get prepared, make you aware, so that when the lottery happens, you will be able to apply. So right now it's the home buyer prep. By summer, we were going to reach out to you and say you need to get your pre-approval and get everything in order. By early fall, late summer, we should hold the lottery, pending any delays. And then in the winter is when we'll be signing purchase and sales with you. We'll go through that process again with you guys, and you should be able to take ownership by the top of 2023. So the top of next year will be the goal of when you should be a home owner. Okay, so that's kind of the timeline for this project. And it's meant to hopefully get you guys prepared, because some people are not ready to buy today. There are some of you who've listened to this and you're like, I have the credit, I'm in the FSS program, I'm working full time. Like, you check all the boxes, so you can go get a pre-approval tomorrow if you wanted to. But for those of you who are not there yet, we want to make sure that we prepare you and help you get there. So you have the Compass Working Capital program, and you also have with Sage on Fountain, they have hired or partnered with our Village Initiative and Thumbprint Realty to prepare you guys for that process of purchasing a home. After this meeting, what you guys can expect, you're going to get this checklist on the right, which outlines what you need to do so that you can purchase a home, any home, with the voucher. And then you're also going to receive information on Sage. So if you're interested in this particular development project, we do need you to sign up. I don't believe in spamming people. So if you want to or express interest in Sage development specifically, we ask you to go and sign up on that website so that we can follow up with you through that portal. And you'll also get the contact information for I paid attention to everyone who registered tonight. All of your housing authorities, and we reached out to them. Some responded, some did not, trying to get who offers the Section 8 to homeownership voucher. So I'll share that list with you guys as well, so you can follow up with them if you have any questions. And then you'll get everyone's contact information from tonight if you have further questions as well. So hold on 1 second. I have a child. Okay, so I see a lot of questions in the chat. I'm gonna go all the way back up and start taking a look at them and answering them one by one. And then we also have some FAQs for VHA that we can go over in the end. We reached our capacity really quickly today. We were only able to allow 100 people in. So I'm going to immediately after this, once it uploads and it saves, I'm going to share the link with you guys so that and everyone who was unable to join us tonight, so that they have the information and you can rewatch this this recording. The first question is, can you expand on the section for disabled families? So I think that might be a combination of Laureen and Wilfred in terms of how does a family, I guess, or someone with a disability benefits, how can they purchase a home?
If a family has considered themselves disabled, they would still have to meet the prerequisites for having taken the first-time home buyers certificate, have the savings, and the income requirements in terms of having, earned income can be waived. That's done on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, thank you. And then Wilfred, from the lender's perspective?
From the lender's perspective, you would have to provide evidence of your Social Security income. Once you provide us with that number, we gross that number up by 25%. Therefore, if, for example, your Social Security income was $1,000, we would gross it up to $1,250. So that would be the income that we were using towards qualifying you for the pre-approval number.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. The next question, if you make more than minimum wage, can you work less than the 32 hours and still qualify?
Again, that would be on a case-by-case basis to see where your income is coming in at, because you still need to be able to pre-qualify for an approval of the bank. And the bank is looking at your income and your ability to be able to cover the mortgage.
Wilfred, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I do not.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. Is there an income max in order to continue to receive a voucher for homeownership? What happens if you max out of income for the voucher program? Great question.
If you max out for the income for the homeownership program, then that means at that point you no longer need assistance and you can cover the mortgage yourself. So what happens is that if we determine that, say that the HAP, which is the housing assistance payment that we were paying, and that would, the minimum would be 30%, and we were paying, say, $1,800, and that we saw that your affordability was $1,900, you would no longer need the assistance at that point. So you would be over income for the program. And that could happen before the time is over, because under the home ownership program, you're in that program for 15 years. And the thought is that as your income increases, your reliance for assistance to subsidy would begin to decrease. And so at some point you could max out before the 15 years, but then you don't need the assistance at that point.
Perfect. So they're saying essentially, yes, you can max out, but that's not a bad thing because it shows that you are earning enough to support yourself. So you no longer need the voucher support, which is a good thing, right?
Correct.
And you own the property. So this is if you were renting and you maxed out, now you have to go find a market rate rental, and that, depending on prices, you're subject to that, right? Whereas now you own the property. It's your asset to hold, and you have a lot more options and a lot more flexibility at that point. Okay, so it says you can use Social Security for an adult. How does it count if you also have children who have Social Security benefits? Can you utilize that to help you qualify for a mortgage?
Yes, we do add all Social Security incomes for the persons who will be occupying the house, occupying the property.
Okay. Are you able to purchase a multifamily using your voucher? I will say the answer is no. Go ahead.
No, under the program guidelines, you can only purchase a single family, because you have to understand that the assistance that the Housing Authority has provided is based on your income and your income alone.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. The next question, what does 1.5% of your own funds mean? So it is based on the purchase price of the property. So based on, let's say it's a $100,000 house, then you would need $3,500 or $1,500 of your own funds to purchase. So it's a percentage of whatever the purchase price will be. I usually tell people just a general, always aim to try to have $10,000. Start there. If it's too much, you have reserve. If it's not enough, at least you have something to start as a baseline, and you can continue to increase from there. But 10,000 is always like a good starting point when I think of homeownership and looking at just housing prices in Greater Boston. Let's see.
Denisha.
Yes, sir.
Can I interject here?
Absolutely.
From a lender's perspective, we always suggest that a mortgage applicant always strive for the 3%, because the 1.5, the other 1.5 coming from gifts or grant is not guaranteed. So if you're really, really interested and interested in getting into a property, strive for the 3%. If you don't achieve that 3% and there's a shortfall, there's a shortage, you can make up that. You can make up to 1.5% in the form of a gift or the form of a grant or a subsidy, as the case may be. But we as lenders always say to our applicants, strive for the 3. You can, if you fall short, then you can do the makeup in the form of a gift or grant.
Perfect, thank you. So this one's kind of, I'll read the whole thing. I think it might be a combination of Laureen and Wilfred again. In Massachusetts, employees who worked for the state or municipal government are exempt from Social Security payments. Whereas to qualify for SSI, you cannot have assets or savings more than $2,000 to $3,000. So how are you able to purchase using Social Security and qualify for a mortgage if you can't save, you can't have too much money, I guess, saved?
Well, we are, from a bank perspective, we are only telling you what makes you, what can make you eligible. We do not know the mechanics or get into the mechanics of how you derive that Social Security. That is for the state government or the county government, as the case may be, or the city government, as the case may be. We are only telling you that you can use Social Security if you are a Social Security recipient.
I'd have to just go for that, because I do get that question a lot at the Housing Authority, and we basically say this, if you have the money, we don't know where you get the money from. If you could have it at home, and when you go to the bank, you can show the bank that you've had this money. I do know that's an issue with the state, and I really haven't seen, we don't really have that many people who've had that problem, because most of them are getting SSDI or SSI. SSDI, for most cases, is their Social Security is derived from earnings that they've made. I haven't really come across anyone that's on strictly SSI, because 9 times out of 10, they're not going to be able to afford a mortgage based on the SSI payments, because it's pretty straightforward. It's a small payment, and it's not going to really change. But a person who's getting Social Security is basically coming from monies that they've earned over time, and that's what they have.
Okay, thank you. And I know a lot of people ask this question. Can you transfer your Section 8 to another housing authority that offers the home buyer program?
At this particular time, Boston, we can't, because we don't have the vouchers available. So we're not taking anyone coming into, want to transfer in, because we don't have vouchers available. I would say probably in 2023, going into 24, we may have vouchers that are available for people to, what we consider portability, to come into Boston. But right now we don't. So we're just working with our own participants.
Okay. And I would say I'm going to send out the list so far of all the housing authorities. There are a couple more who do offer it, or who may, because I think everyone might be at capacity. You can reach out to them and maybe try to get on the waiting list for transferring over to the Section 8 to home ownership. Is there a maximum amount you can spend on a home? I guess they're asking because the majority of homes in Boston are really expensive.
Probably Wilford, because the bank is just going to determine what your affordability is. We determine the half, but the bank will determine what you're able to get in a mortgage. That comes from your pre-approval.
So pre-approval is based on a couple of things. One, score, your credit score. Two, your assets, at least 1.5%. And the next most important thing is called the debt to income ratio. For the one mortgage, for example, the highest debt to income ratio that would qualify you is 43%. Therefore, that is the threshold of affordability that one can have. For example, if a person is working for $50,000, $60,000 a year, that $60,000 per year is when divided by 12 is $5,000 a month. So your total debt, if you are working for $5,000 a month, your total debt, in order to qualify for the one mortgage, is 43% of $5,000. Therefore, 43. Therefore, your third total debt, meaning the prospective home, which is principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, your student loan, your monthly student loan payment, your credit card, monthly credit card payment, your car payment, all of those bills together cannot exceed $2,150 a month. That is called your debt to income ratio. And that tells you that tells you or restrict you to how much house you can buy. I can tell you 2150, when you let's say your student loan was $100, so 2150 minus $100. Let's say your car loan was $300, 2150 minus 100 is 2050, minus 300, 1750. And let's say you had credit cards of $100, that's 1650. That 1650 now is the equivalent to your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. $1,600 to cover those four aspects of your mortgage payment can probably buy a house of about $200,000. There's no house that you can buy for $200,000, basically.
In Boston.
In Boston, correct. You have to go, let's say, to Springfield or some parts of Worcester and so on. However, there are lottery programs around the state that you may be able to, if you enter those lotteries, you may be able to enter, and you won the lottery, then you may be able to get a house for 200,000, 250, 280, 290, and you might have a shot at purchasing the house based on the amount of debt that you have, your debt load.
And if you are a one-person household or even two and you're interested in Stage on Fountain, you would qualify because our studios are under $200,000. So it does work. You can buy in Boston.
Yeah.
Let's see. So the FSS program, I think this was explained earlier. We'll do it one more time. So this is for you, LaShonda. I have FSS and they tell me only a position of increase goes into escrow. Can you explain that further, please?
Yes. So as I mentioned before, when you come into the program, whatever income that you're entering the program at is your baseline. So the idea to start to see those savings is that you're going to earn above what you were making coming in. So say if you were making, okay, pandemic is real. We didn't have a job, when we came into the FSS program. And then 6 months down the line, you get a job. So your rent goes from, you go from zero income to say, I don't know, throw a number out there, to $10,000 a year. And say your rent portion is say $500 a month now, went from zero to $500 a month. That $500 jump is what you will start to see go into your savings month after month. But if your income never increases, then you will not have access to that, or the escrow savings. And the other important part is that it has to be working income. So you might get a rent increase based on any other income that's coming in, maybe child support, maybe SSI, but those types of income, the unearned types of income, do not count towards FSS savings. It's only the working income that counts.
Okay, perfect. And then what happens if you're not ready to purchase a home today or within the next 5 years and you don't meet your goal? Can you continue to add to your escrow until you are ready, or is there a max amount of time that your money can go into the escrow account?
I'm so sorry, I missed, could you repeat the question?
Sorry, yes, ma'am. So what happens if you are unable to purchase a home within the next 5 years for the FSS program? Are you able to extend that beyond the 5-year time and continue to add to the escrow, or is it only that 5-year period?
Oh yeah, so there are instances when we offer extensions on a case-by-case basis, but you'd have to sort of work with your coach to make sure that you fall within those guidelines for an extension. But the short answer is yes, you can extend.
Is there a cap on how much you can save in your escrow?
Depends on the program provider. There are certain providers that do cap it off, but BHA does not. So
you could save $50,000?
You could save $50,000. I mean, if you're doing making major moves like that, but I will say this. No, I will say this. I want to say this for as it stands. If we're talking about BHA specifically, if you're earning above the area median income of 50%, as the rule stands today, you are not eligible to start to see those savings. Whether or not you're above that depends on your family size, depends on what town you live in, because that fluctuates based on where you're living. The good news is we know that rule is slated to drop sometime. We hope this year. Unfortunately, COVID has delayed that process for HUD to drop the rule. So if you're a higher earner and you earn above 50% of the area median income of where you live, you won't be eligible for the FSS savings until that rule drops. But you can still absolutely take advantage of the financial coaching part of it, because if homeownership, is a goal of yours, you still have to work on those aspects. And then, you have a choice of enrolling today even as a higher earner and taking advantage of the financial coaching, or enrolling later when that rule drops and you can take advantage of the escrow savings. And again, that's very, very program specific. I don't want to take up too much time. Talk to me offline. We can, I can help you figure out if you're one of those folks.
Thank you. No, and I think, so the next question is, must you be or have the FSS account to buy a home? And the answer is no. You don't even have to participate in the FSS program to purchase a home. That's if you need to, then you do. If you check all the boxes and you're able to qualify because your credit's where it needs to be, your debt to income is where it needs to be, your work history is where it needs to be, your saving is where it needs to be, you can go into the home ownership piece and skip over the FSS program because you don't need that support. The FSS program is designed for those who need additional help to get to the goal, to get to the finish line. And you don't have to participate in the escrow account either, right? You can still, just like LaShonda said, if you need coaching and you need help with all of your other finances, but you're able to save on your own, do that, right? The FSS program is meant to just provide that support and give you a financial counselor, so to speak, to make sure that you're doing everything that you need to do and staying on task so that you can purchase a home or accomplish any of your other goals. We're talking about home ownership today, but I've seen people use it to pay for college, to buy a car. Whatever your financial goals are, they match, they help you figure out your goals and your action items, your tasks to accomplish that goal. So it's definitely more multifaceted. I will share everyone's information. So you'll get LaShonda's information to follow up with her after this meeting. One sec, I'm just reading through the questions. Okay, so for how long do they pay for a portion of your mortgage? So you purchase a home with the Section 8 voucher. Are they paying a portion of it forever?
No, it's for 15 years, and then you're no longer on the program. So it is 15-year cap. If you are a disabled family, it would go until the end of the mortgage. But there's only for a disabled or elderly family that exception, that it would continue on. So for a regular homeownership voucher participant, it is for 15 years. The elderly disabled family, it would go until the end of the mortgage.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Someone asked, okay, if they've already done everything and they're ready to become a homeowner. Again, after this meeting, I'm going to send out an email to you guys with the checklist and then contact information so you can kind of take the next step to becoming a homeowner. It's a good question. Do you have to buy a house where the bedrooms match your Section 8 voucher? So let's say your voucher is for a 2-bedroom. Can you buy a 4-bedroom house? Or if it's for a 4-bedroom, can you buy a 2-bedroom house?
It would be, well, what happens is that it really boils down to what you're pre-approved for. So there is a payment standard in Boston. We have over 80 different communities that there are different payment standards for. So like Wilfred had mentioned earlier, what the payment standard for, say, Mattapan as opposed to Roxbury would be different. So if you found a 3-bedroom in Roxbury and you only had a 2-bedroom voucher, you would probably be able to get it because it would be a higher payment standard than it would be in Mattapan. So it really all depends on how much you're approved for and what the payment standard is that you're looking at.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then are there city or town limits or restrictions to use the BHA voucher to purchase? So can I take my BHA voucher and purchase in Leominster? Can I take it and purchase in Rhode Island? What are the restrictions on how far I can go and utilize this voucher?
Okay, like I just mentioned earlier, we serve over 80 communities. We go as far as the Worcester line, and we go down to the Bourne Bridge on the Cape. So there's like about 80 communities in between that we service. You cannot take the voucher out of state because it's the first-time home buyer certificate program is through the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for the assistance, for the financial assistance. So it can only be in Massachusetts, and it can only be a single family. But like I said, there's about 80 communities that we service. So you could go to like Dighton, Wareham, Mashpee down on the Cape, as we go right to the bridge. So there are a lot of communities that you can look at. Sterling. So there are a lot.
Okay,
It
perfect.
just depends on where you find the home that you want to live in. And like Wilford said earlier, there are a lot of communities that do have lottery programs that you would be eligible to take advantage of.
So if you sign up, I can't remember the exact link, but you can Google it. I think it's like boston.gov/MetroList. They give you a list of all of the affordable lotteries for rentals and for home ownership for the state, or I think Greater Boston. Definitely go on that site so that you can get, be alerted for all of the opportunities, because sometimes they have, single family homes outside of Boston that are $200,000 or $300,000. So definitely sign up for that email list. They send it out. They give you alerts, and you can check the website frequently to get stay up to date on what's available.
Yes, Denisha.
And yes.
Just to piggyback on what you just said, I know early this year, Plymouth, there were some lotteries in Plymouth that the monitoring agencies were actually begging persons to apply for, and it would not have become a lottery. It would be whoever was interested could get one of those properties, and they were very nice, newly constructed buildings, but unfortunately there were a large number of persons who I as a lender spoke to and so on was saying Plymouth was too far.
Yeah. So it's trying to figure out again for you guys, and we talk about this in other sessions, where it's thinking of your long-term goal, right? So sometimes your first house, that's it. It's your first house. It's not your forever home. So is it that you're willing to go further out so that you can own, and then you leverage that to move back in closer to where you want to be? Or is it that you start smaller? So I would say Sage is a great example of something. If you needed to start smaller so that you can own, stabilize your cost of housing, and then transition and use that to buy the next home, right? Which would be more bedrooms or in an area where you want to live and settle down. So it's when you're thinking of how to utilize your voucher to purchase, also think strategically. It's not just like, I want to live in this area. This is where I've always wanted to live. If where you've always wanted to live is out of your price range, that doesn't mean you stop looking for a house. It's okay, well, where else can I buy? Where else can I afford to buy? And does it work? Do the numbers work for me to be able to purchase maybe further out, and the commute coming back in, it makes sense because I own the property at the end of the day. So you have to look at all of these options and kind of all different angles when it comes to home ownership, and not just, I want to buy a house in my number one neighborhood, because sometimes that's not where you're going to start. It will be where you end up, but it may not be where you start. Okay.
Tanisha, what I would also say is that sometimes getting a condo in a community that you really want to live in and start small there, because you might be able to get into a condo lot quicker than buying a home in that particular neighborhood that you want to move into. And then you have some time to really search and find the home that you want in that area. So there's nothing looking at getting a condo and being in it for 3 to 5 years and then moving up into a single family home. At that point, that would be what you're looking for. So that's always another option. Start small, being a condo. And a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to do a condo, but you're still building equity in that condo. It's going to help you in the long run because you have a lot more time to look at what you really want and see what you want.
Correct. I agree. And again, some people get upset when I say it, but you get in where you fit in, right? You look at your pre-approval amount and you go, well, where can I afford to buy with this? And you consider the benefits, the disadvantages, and decide if that's where it makes sense for you to purchase. Because again, it's a stepping stone, right? For some people, this is your first house. It's not your forever house. So thinking of all of those things as well. Someone asked if the Sage project only builds in Roxbury. Right now, yes. The next project will be in Mattapan. That will be not for another couple years, but there will be an opportunity to purchase in Mattapan and then looking into other locations as well. Is this program only for specific homes? Nope. So you can, the Section 8 to home ownership voucher program is, you have to use the HAP. So you have to qualify. They give you the letter in terms of how much the voucher will cover. And then the rest of it is based on your income. They combine those two to issue you a pre-approval. And whatever that total amount is, it lets you know kind of how much you can pay for a home in a particular town or a particular neighborhood that you can submit offers for. And as Laureen said earlier, they have about 80 different communities that they work in around Massachusetts. So again, it's specific. The pre-approval amount adjusts based on the town or the neighborhood that you're interested in, but you're not limited to a specific development or house, right? So it's not only for affordables. You can use it to buy a market rate if you qualify for a market rate. In the city of Boston, most likely it would be utilized to purchase an affordable unit. Some people have been able to purchase market rate. It depends on your situation. So a lot of it is very individual specific. So you'd have to do that consultation to learn more about what works for you. This is general, so you understand the process. I'm just reading through. A lot of these are the same questions. Okay, how does it work for assessing income for freelance workers? So if you were a 1099 employee, well, at 1099, so you're self-employed, how does that work for calculating your income to qualify for this opportunity?
For all self-employed persons, we average your income over a 24 months period. So you have to provide us with your Schedule Cs, you have to provide us with your 1099s, and then we average that that income over a 24-month period.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That was nice and succinct. And then what is the length of employment needed? For some people, you know, does it affect them if they were furloughed during the pandemic or if they were kind of laid off for a while during the pandemic? Does that gap affect their ability to purchase a home?
It does not. The general rule of thumb is that you must be working for 24 months, and that 24 months does not always mean employment. For example, if you're a college student and you just graduated from college 2 months ago, you interviewed, you got a job offer, you have your job offer letter, and then you go on the job. You only need to provide 1 month, sorry, not 1 month, one pay stub to show us that you're actually working. But then we will use that pay stub along with your job offer letter to calculate your income. That is an exception, but the general rule of thumb is you need to be working for 24 months. Now, because of pandemic and so on, we know that some persons have been out of the job for at least 18 months or so. As long as you are back to work, and you can provide us with 1 month worth of pay stubs, and your explanation for that gap was a pandemic, or you were sick, you were ill, or some plausible explanation, then you're fine. We will use your current income.
Okay, so if someone was laid off due to the pandemic, they can still qualify because they stay in the same field and they start working again. You would just kind of take the months or the years before the pandemic and then the current pay stub.
Well, generally we wouldn't even go back to the years. We would take the current pay stub to evaluate their income.
Okay, perfect. And then how does it work for someone who they are in the school system? So for 10 months, they have employment, and then they file unemployment for the 2 months that they're out of school. How does that affect them in getting a pre-approval?
We would use, let's say your income was 84, a teacher, let's say $84,000 a year. And that $84,000 were generated over the 10 months period while they were home for 2 months. We divide that 84 still by 12, not by 10.
Okay.
So in that
Perfect.
case, it would be 84 divided by 12 would be $7,000 per month.
So you just take the average of what they do have.
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. What happens if you lose your job after you purchase a home and you have the voucher? Is there a penalty, or do you lose the assistance because you no longer have employment? So you own the home and you lost your job.
No, there's no penalty. You just come in, you do your recertification as you did as a regular voucher holder, and we would make the adjustment. We'd probably be paying more or all the subsidy at that point, more to the mortgage for you. And again, we send the check to you and you pay the mortgage directly. So it would be in your best interest to let us know as soon as you're not working, so that we can make the adjustments in your rent, in your mortgage payment, so you don't get behind.
So the goal is
And
to prevent foreclosure.
Correct. Correct.
Perfect. Thank you. So this person said they already have a pre-approval through NACA. How do they start using their voucher towards purchasing a home? Does NACA work with you to accomplish this goal?
If their participant a voucher holder with the Boston Housing Authority, then they need to contact me or contact their leasing officer so that we can start the process with us.
Okay, so if that person's still on, if you purchased, if your housing authority is BHA, then reach out to Laureen or your counselor ASAP, so they can kind of get through that process with you. If you're using another housing authority, then you need to reach out to your leasing officer to find out if they participate in the Section 8 to home ownership, and how you can leverage your voucher. So I would reach out to them tomorrow or send the email tonight to get that process started. Someone asked, is Metro housing included? This presentation is specific to BHA. Metro does not have the Section 8 to home ownership program. What they have is, I think they give you $5,000 towards your home purchase. So every voucher provider has different guidelines and services that they offer. Some offer just FSS, some offer FSS and the home ownership. Others offer an ability for you to, closing costs or down payment assistance.
I quickly say that just because housing authority that you might have doesn't work with Compass, it doesn't mean that your program, your authority doesn't offer FSS. FSS is not specific to Compass. We're just one provider of FSS. Most housing authorities operate their own FSS programs independently, so it's still very worth it to check into whether or not the housing authority that you're with offers an FSS program.
Correct. So I will say, for example, Quincy Housing, they have their own FSS program. So it's not, unless they've changed, it's not in partnership with Compass, but they do have an FSS program and they do have a Section 8 to home ownership. So it's all kind of within their network. You'd reach out to them directly. So the moral of the story for tonight, if you're with BHA and you check all the boxes, I see a few people say they already have the pre-approval and they're out there looking. Reach out to your leasing counselor or coordinator tonight or tomorrow to start transitioning that to utilize your Section 8 to home ownership voucher or get the process started so you can leverage that. Let's see. Yes, Dariella did say, yes, you can purchase at Sage for under $200,000. And then here's a good question. What happens if you cannot pay the full mortgage at the end of the 15-year period? What happens at that time?
Are you still in the program at that point? They'd have to, I mean.
I think that would be yes. So assuming that they're still in the program, and at the end of the 15 years, they are not able to pay or cover the full mortgage, they still need assistance, but the program only says 15 years. Are there exceptions to that rule, or what are their options at that point?
I don't know of any exceptions to the rule at this point, outside of them being elderly or disabled families that will continue on. So if they're at in the end of the 15 years and they can't pay, they'd have an option to probably either sell the property and then go back on rental assistance through the Section 8 program, but we would not be able to continue to pay the mortgage at that point.
Okay. So I will say you have options when you own, right? So if you've been making your payments, I guess my question would be a follow-up before I say that is,
Sure.
what are is there a lien on the property? Is there a second mortgage? How does BHA or the voucher program kind of tie into the person owning the home?
We make the mortgage payment directly to the participant, to the homeowner voucher participant, and they're responsible for paying the mortgage. They should be in a position after 15 years, or we'd be seeing something going on prior to coming to close to that time, because we're going to be asking you what's going on if we see that there's payments that are being missed. Something's got to be going on. And I've been doing this for quite some time, and I have not seen that happen.
Okay.
You know, I mean, there's a.
Mhm.
I mean,
are there? Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, like, I don't understand why they would not be able. They would be in a position not to be able to continue. They'd be, at that point, they should be self-sufficient after 15 years, because they're getting a lot of support. So their income should have been increasing at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Because the subsidy is going to be getting smaller and smaller, the assistance from the Housing Authority. And that's the goal, that, you know, after the 15 years, you have one or two choices: either to sell the property and go back to being a participant under the Housing Choice Voucher Program, to rent and sell the property.
So you said you make the payments directly to the participant and not to their mortgage.
Right.
Are you able to track what happens if they take the money and they're not paying? They get the money from you, but they're not paying their mortgage. How do you track that?
Well, the responsibility, the onus is between the bank and the participant. So they're responsible for their mortgage payments. If they're not making the payments, they're going to get a notice at some point in time from the bank showing that they've missed payments. And then they're going to come to the BHA and tell us, oh, I didn't make the payments. So we're going to say, well, we've made the payments to you. You need to work that out with the bank. Mm-hmm. But we did have one case where there was a young lady who did not pay, and she ended up losing the home because she didn't pay the mortgage. And we could show proof that every single month for over a year, the checks went directly to her, and she just didn't pay it. And then she had a problem when they were going to come in and foreclose, and then actually the bank contacted us to find out what was going on. And we said, well, we could show the bank that we've made the payment to the participant, and they were responsible for turning the payments over.
Okay.
A long story short, if you do not pay your mortgage, your property will be foreclosed. Mm-hmm. Now, BHA does not place any liens on mortgages. For those persons who are doing the one mortgage, and MHP is giving you a subsidy, because any person whose income is under 80% of the area median income, you're also eligible for a monthly subsidy for the first 8 years. BHA does not, MHP does place a second lien on your mortgage. So if you have one mortgage, and you got that with income under 80% AMI, your property has a first lien, which is the bank, a second lien, which is Mass Housing Partnership. But BHA does not place liens.
Thank you for that clarification. So pretty much you need to pay your mortgage. And I would say do not, because I think some people are like, oh, there's an opportunity. I'll take that money and do other things. If you're trying to build wealth, if you're trying to build stability for your family, then you need to pay that mortgage, because what you're doing is paying down on the total debt on the house and increasing the equity in the home. So money that you would have access to in the future if you decided to sell or refinance and take cash out of your home. So it is very important that you continue to make those payments on a monthly basis. If you're having difficulty, reach out to BHA immediately or your housing authority so that they can assist you in that process. At the end of 15 years, you should have paid down on your home. You have the option, hopefully your income has increased and you're able to cover that cost on your own. If you are not, then you should have equity, or hopefully you have equity in your home that you could refinance to lower your payment and hopefully get it to a number that makes sense for you. At that time, you would speak with your lender or another lender in terms of how to refinance and go through that process, okay? Someone wonderful, I love these questions are coming out. So you use the voucher to purchase a single family home, but now your family's outgrown that. Can you now go buy a second home?
You can, because as long as it's within your 15-year cap, you can do that. You can move up to a different home, but you're still going to be capped at 15 years. So if you've been in this particular home for, say, 7 years, you would only have, 8 years left? So that would be your 15 years.
But you would have to sell this home in order to buy the second home, or could you go buy a second one so you own two properties?
No, you have to sell that home in order to keep in the home ownership program.
Okay. And what happens if you sell your home and you made $200,000 in profit? Do you still get to use the voucher to buy the next one?
That would probably be a question for wealth, because I don't think you're going to make that, because there has to be some income or some deed restrictions, I guess, or resale restrictions. And I'm not familiar with that. I think that would be something wealth would have more information on.
If the property was purchased using a deed restricted, under deed restrictions, then there would be maximum resale value restrictions as well. Therefore, there's no way that they would make a profit of $200,000 under any deed restricted properties. If, however, it was purchased under the regular market, under regular market values, then maybe they can make $200,000 profit, and the bank has no control over what you do with that increase in capital.
So if you were lucky enough to find a place at a steal of a deal now, so that you could potentially make a $200,000 profit in years to come, sounds like you were okay to do that. My follow-up question to that, Laureen, is there a penalty, or what is the penalty, I guess, if you purchase with the voucher, and because I think people will do this. I'm trying to think of, like, on the side of being proactive with the questioning. They turn the property into a rental. So they bought it with BHA with the voucher, and then they decided they were going to rent it out and not live there. And BHA found out. What is the penalty that they would have to? What is the penalty for that? Because I know some people are thinking this.
They have to recertify every single year that they're living in that home. And if it comes to find out that they are no longer living in the home and it is a rental, then we would be looking at proposed termination of the assistance altogether. They have a right to due process to a hearing, but then you're not doing what you're supposed to do because you're recertifying every year saying, I still live in the property, you're giving us the information regarding your income because it's based on your income.
Not only that, if they are using the Section 8 voucher to purchase a property using the Mass Housing Partnership 1 mortgage, the Mass Housing Partnership 1 mortgage is a owner occupied program, primary residence. If Mass Housing were to know that you are no longer living in that property, Mass Housing has the right to recapture any subsidy that they may have given you during the period of time that you got it. And if you're unable to do it, Mass Housing has the right to call the contract with the bank.
Okay, yep. So if you have, depending on the lender or the loan product, they can call that loan due, which means as opposed to you making a monthly payment, they want all of it. So if the house was $200,000 and you owe $190,000 still, they will say, I want the $190,000 since you violated the contract.
Because you violated the contract.
Some of these are more lender specific. We're going to have a session specific to financing. I'll read one so you can start answering it, Wilfred, while I read the others. What if I was working multiple years at my job part-time, but I recently went full-time and I'm a college student? They threw everything in there.
Well, if you have been working working for more than 2 years at any number of jobs, we will utilize the income from all those jobs that you have continuous 24 months of employment. Therefore, if you've been working, for example, 3 jobs, and you're working all 3 jobs for 24 months plus, we can use the income from 3 jobs. If you were doing it for 4 jobs, we can use the income for 4 jobs. But you must be working those 4 jobs continuously, simultaneously, for 24 months or more in order for us to count all that income.
Thank you. And then I think we answered this earlier, but what happens if you lose your job after the 15 years? That would be for you, Laureen.
After the 15 years, because you will get a notice 60 days before the 15 years is up to say that you will be terminated from the program because you've approached your 15 years. And that's the end of the program at that point.
So the program is 15 years.
It's 15 years.
Okay.
After 15 years, the responsibility of making the payment is on you. If you don't want to lose the house through foreclosure process, you have to continue paying your mortgage regardless of whether you're working or not.
Mm-hmm. And there are options available. There are resources out there to help you. I would say don't stress about those things and make that a hindrance for you applying. Start the process. Because if that happens, we can solve that then. And there may be more programs in the future to solve that problem. So don't let that be an obstacle as to why you do not get started. Where did it go? Oh, can I use a cosigner to get a pre-approval for a mortgage utilizing the voucher program?
Yes, you can use, from a bank's perspective, you can use a cosigner. A co-borrower, and that co-borrower must be a member of the household. You cannot use a non-occupant co-borrower in these programs. But if the person is going to be a member of the household and the total household income are within the income guidelines, the income limits, yes, you can, from the bank's perspective. I would defer to Laureen to see how Boston Housing would handle that situation?
For the Boston Housing Authority, there is no co-borrower because if that person's not on the family composition, they're not part of the household. So they'd have to be part of the household for at least a year. So if someone wanted to add a family member, they'd have to be on there for at least 1 year. They couldn't just have someone come on and say, I want to co-sign for a house, because they're not part of the family composition.
Okay.
They have to be on the family composition and participant on the Section 8 voucher.
Okay, that's good to know. So I think that's, in case you guys, it's different depending on if you're just getting a pre-approval separate from the housing voucher versus the housing voucher. So for the housing voucher, anyone who's going to be on that as a co-signer also needs to be a member of your household. So their income, all of that would be calculated in your voucher program and your packet. So it has to be someone who's part of your household in order to utilize this program, is just to clarify. And then if you inherit life insurance from a deceased family member, does that count towards income? I'm loving these questions.
That is not income. That would be an asset, or it could be counted as towards down payment. But income is what you get on a monthly basis. If it was, for example, if it was stocks and bonds that give monthly dividends or interest, we can count that dividend or interest towards your income. But the actual lump sum is not income, it is an asset.
Okay. And Lorene, does that, so now you have an asset, so you have more funds. Does that disqualify you from BHA, from the voucher program? Because
No.
now you have, let's say you have $100,000 in your bank account.
It's an asset. We're looking at the interest that's earned on that asset that we're looking at.
So to remain in the housing program, so on a voucher, whether it's for rental or for homeownership, if you get a lump sum from a life insurance policy payout, it does not disqualify you from remaining on the rental voucher or the homeownership voucher.
No, it does not.
Right, what is happening here? I'm gonna have to turn off everyone's features because someone's writing on it. So I'm gonna turn off screen share right now and keep answering the questions because someone's doing what they're not supposed to do. Can you sign a house over to your children if you decide to move out or move on? It's a good question.
No, you can't, because the voucher and the mortgage is what's connected to the home ownership voucher. So the only time that I could see it possibly happening is if the person was deceased. But other than that, if they just wanted to leave, no, because the mortgage is with the bank and the person who holds the mortgage.
Okay. And someone said they've been reaching out. They do have BHA. They've been unsuccessful connecting with their leasing officer. So who should they contact if they have further questions?
They can contact me, and my information will be at the end of this session, because the leasing officer will refer them to the home ownership program, which I oversee.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Can you find your own realtor to find a house in Brockton and use your BHA Section 8 to help pay your mortgage? Yes. So correct. You can use whoever you want to help you purchase a home. That's separate from the BHA program. There are no restrictions there. You just have to qualify for the Section 8 to homeownership voucher, and then you can buy in any of the cities that BHA services or have that they serve, which you said is over 80 of them. I believe Brockton is one of those. Does the BHA portion decrease during the 15 years, or is it a set amount over the 15 years?
It can decrease, it can increase depending upon the participant's income when they do their annual recertification, and they must be recertified annually.
So it adjusts depending on your income annually. See, I knew we were gonna get one. So where did it go? So if they purchase the home, can they rent out one of the rooms to help supplement their income? And what are the restrictions?
No, under the regular Section 8 program, you can't do that. You definitely cannot do it under the homeownership program.
I'm glad they're asking. So you guys heard it. You can't do it. I love it. Okay, I'm going to read this in real time. I haven't pre-read read it. If you start FSS earning $5,000 a year, do you always have to make $5,000 for the past 5 years? What happens if you lose your job in between? Would it still escrow, or how does the escrow work?
If you come into the program making $5,000, so we lock it in at that baseline, you'd have to earn above that number to start to see the savings. But if your income never increases above that $5,000 baseline, you won't save, but you can still take advantage of the financial coaching. Or if you, so say you had a promotion year one, and it bumped up to 10,000. And so you start to see these escrow savings and your rent increased and at the same time. Whatever you saved up to that point before you lost your job is yours. It's your money. So you don't lose the savings that you have in place. Whatever you've earned up to the point of losing your job is yours. In my journey, I stopped and I started several times because there were just several different events in my life that impacted my journey. So there was one point where I didn't work for 2 years and I didn't escrow those 2 years, but what I had saved up to that point was mine. I still graduated with a healthy sum. So, 5,000 is the baseline, earn above 5,000 to see the savings. You can't decrease beneath 5,000 in order to see those savings.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Someone asked here, this seems like it's only for Boston and I live in Springfield. Nope. So we have Boston Housing Authority presenting tonight to go over the Section 8 to homeownership program. But this can be used for any housing authority, so Springfield Housing Authority, if they also offer the Section 8 to homeownership program. This is a federal program, so it's not specific to BHA. People who have a voucher in Florida, who have a voucher in South Carolina, who have a voucher in California, they can purchase homes as well if their program has the Section 8 to homeownership voucher. So this is for anyone. The process is the same because you have to go through the lender and meet the requirements. So that's why we have BHA presenting tonight. But if your housing authority offers this voucher, you can use it to purchase a home. The steps are the same. You still need to have the credit. You still need to have the correct debt to income. You still need to get pre-approved by a lender. The process is the same. It's just different housing providers. We have BHA presenting tonight to outline everything for you, but the process would be the same or very similar depending on which provider you have.
Denisha, one point that we omitted to make earlier is that regardless of whether you qualify for the FHA program, BHA program, or FFS program, or any Section 8 program for that matter, you must find a lender who is eligible and who offers this and can do this program. Not all lenders do, not many lenders do. So you do have to find a lender that can accommodate your Section 8 for home ownership voucher program in order to be able to make a purchase. Very, very important to note.
It is very important. So understand that you do need to speak with a lender who participates in this program, who understands it, because not all lenders, I've had people say, I went and I got a pre-approval and they didn't know what I was talking about. So it does need to be a lender who participates. Needham Bank is one. I believe Eastern Bank is another. We can get the list of all of the participating lenders for you, so that you have that reference. We have one on with us tonight, Mr. Wilfred of Needham Bank, to help you guys through that process of purchasing and getting a pre-approval with a lender who understands this process, the product, and can help you and navigate the process with you, because it is overwhelming. There's a lot of paperwork involved. So you need someone who has that patience to walk you through, okay?
And of note, you can't get a pre-approval from one bank and go to another bank to apply for a mortgage under this particular program. In generally speaking, that is possible for market rates, mortgages, and so on. But for this special program, you cannot do that. If you got a pre-approval from Bank A, you should follow through, or you have to follow through with that bank, because if you go to Bank B, that Bank B may not be a participant in this program. I will stress that there are not many banks that do this program. So for those who may say that they have pre-approvals, that pre-approval was not given by a participant bank, it doesn't, that pre-approval is valueless.
Okay, perfect. I'm trying to see if we didn't answer. I think we covered everything. If you guys continue to please place your questions in the chat. I'm going through just to see if there was any FAQ questions that you guys didn't ask, but we had on our sheet specific to how to leverage your voucher to purchase. Okay, here's a good question. How can you save money when BHA always looks at your savings? So if you're not part of FSS, is there a cap in terms of your savings account when you're trying to purchase a home, according to the Housing Authority? It's a great question.
No, there is no cap on the savings. What BHA looks at with your accounts is, excuse me, if you have monies that are going into the account like that, looks like you have a second job and it's unreported income. That's what we're looking at. You can have, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 that you saved in the bank, and we're just looking at the interest. And so basically, what happens is we look at accounts, is that we see that there's income going in every single week. Additional payments that look like there's a second or a third job. But we have no cap on the savings that you have in the bank.
Okay, perfect. Uh-oh, bless you.
Thank you.
So I think we have answered. If there are any more questions, please put them in the chat. I think we've answered a lot of them. So the goal, to summarize, thank you for those of you who are still on this call tonight. We truly appreciate it. We're gonna, once this saves onto the platform, we're going to upload it and share the link so you guys can rewatch, share with those who couldn't join us tonight, and you'll get the handout or the checklist of what you need to do. You'll get the presentation, you'll get a copy of the slides with all of our contact information as well. So you can purchase a home with your voucher. It depends on who your voucher provider is. And if it is a housing authority that participates, you are able to transfer to different housing authorities if they have availability or room for you to enroll in their homeownership program, because not everyone offers it. And then for Sage on Fountain, if you are interested in this development project specifically, we will send that information in the email as well for you to sign up, or you can email us there so that we can connect with you specific to Sage and put a plan specific to Sage to make sure that you are able to enter and apply for that lottery when it becomes available later this year. I'm going to send out everything as one email so that you have it, but then we will start breaking down, because we had a lot of great questions. So trying to break down those questions for you guys so you have them for future reference after you forget about some of the things we talked about tonight, because I think you guys asked a lot of great questions. You can leverage this to purchase a home. I would say think of it as your stepping stone. A lot of people, I see you thinking ahead of like, I want to buy another property. Yes, get this one, focus on the one first, right? Get the first one, get this one, make sure this is situated, and then you can plan and strategize on what the next step is after that. But secure what's available now for you, for your family, in terms of home ownership. We see that prices are continuing. It's still going up, even in the midst of a pandemic, even with interest rates hikes. So take action now. Commit to yourself now to purchase and do everything you can so that you can be in a position to leverage your voucher to purchase a home. And then I would say purchase, get in where you fit in, wherever it is that you can buy, whether it's a studio, condo, whether it's a condo or a single family, but you really want a multifamily, get in where you fit in now. Leverage the program now, and then use that to save and to do all the things that you need to do so that you can graduate to the next level later on. I think a lot of times we focus on the big picture and forget all the little things that we can do along the way, so we still never accomplish the big goal. So focus on the now. What can I do now? What do I qualify for now? And then plan out later on what that looks like for you and your family. Someone said here, yep, I thought you can't purchase a second home. Correct. So you use the voucher, it's a strategy, right? You use a voucher, you purchase your single family home, or your condo, you're happy, you're living there, you're saving, you're getting job promotions, pay increases, everything is working great. So now you do not need the voucher anymore because you are self-sufficient. You don't need their help. The goal is not for you to be on this forever, right? It's help when you need it. So at some point, you don't need the assistance anymore. You're still saving, you're still managing your credit and everything else. You can buy the second property and come off of the voucher assistance. Guess what? You still own the house, right? They don't come and say, well, you're not in the program anymore, we want the house back. You still own the asset. So the goal is to own the asset, own the house, and then think of what the next step is. Because you can own it, and as long as you're using the voucher, you cannot buy a second property. But who says you have to stay on the voucher? If you own a second property, that means that income should be supplementing, right? They just replace the voucher for you. So it's thinking strategically and thinking big picture of how to leverage this. And I think that's just more of like maybe a strategy call that we would have to kind of walk you through it. But there are so many options. Leverage this opportunity. And Laureen, I'm not sure if you have it or if you're able to share, I guess, how many people have been able to utilize this Section 8 to homeownership voucher in the past year or past couple of years from BHA? Because I don't know that a lot of people have known about it. I've heard about it in other states. I've only known about it in Boston. I want to say maybe in the last 3 years.
We have a total of about 35 families who have home ownership. Right now, we are working with 4 families. I believe 2 families closed last week.
Nice.
Purchasing a home, and we have, I want to say there's 2 more in the pipeline that will probably close before the end of this month.
Awesome.
So
okay.
It takes a long time, and we found is that it's hard to find properties. A lot of our families want to stay in Boston, and they've had to resign that idea, and they've moved outside the city. We've had a couple that were able to go through the lottery system in Boston and were able to get homes, but most of them are outside the city.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Thank you. So I'll always put the plug in there. For those of you, again, if you're looking for a studio, 1 bedroom, 2 or 3, Sage on Fountain is coming this year. It's under construction right now. So you have that opportunity in front of you. And then you have others, right, around the state. This is specific to Massachusetts. So if you wanted to buy in Wisconsin or Georgia, then you would need to transfer to a housing authority in the state that you want to live in to utilize their Section 8 to homeownership voucher, because these are specific to Massachusetts. Process is the same or very similar no matter where you go, but you have to use the program in the state that you live in. So you can't take BHA or a Massachusetts voucher and go to Chicago. You'd have to get a Chicago voucher, if that makes sense. Okay, so I think that's it. Can you transfer while in the program? So if you're, that's a good question. So if you are part of the Section 8 to home ownership, Laureen, and in the
Yes.
middle of that, you have your pre-approval, you're out looking, and in the middle of that, you're like, we're actually going to move to Rhode Island now because Massachusetts is too expensive. Can you transfer to another provider in Rhode Island? Or is it that you have to start the process all over again?
You would have to start the process all over again because your first-time home buyer's certificate is only good for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So you could not use it outside the state of Massachusetts.
Okay.
If you're in the FSS program and you had the savings from your escrow account, you could certainly take that with you to Rhode Island, but you couldn't take the homeownership voucher.
Okay, so it's not transferable across state lines. You'd have to start the process all over again.
Yeah.
So I would say, if you're moving, identify the housing provider or housing authority that does have the Section 8 to homeownership program. So you're enlisting or you're transferring to one that's going to work for you and not against you.
I mean, we do have some families that are right at Pawtucket, that's right on the line, you know, that's still part of Massachusetts before they cross over to Rhode Island, so they could do that.
But Pawtucket is Rhode Island.
But there's a line there right before that's still considered part of it, Massachusetts.
But it's Pawtucket? Really? I never knew that.
I forget the name of
learned
the
something
town.
new tonight.
It's like it's right on the line, and I can't remember what it is because we had someone that was looking down there, and she was, and actually it fell through because she couldn't do it, but she didn't cross over all the way to Rhode Island. It was like right on the line.
Okay, there you go. You have not because you ask not, right? You try and then you see and then you ask and see if it works out. There we go. Okay, I think that is it for tonight. If you guys have any other questions, I have everyone's contact information on the screen. I'm also going to email it to everyone. You're going to get the handouts. You're going to get the slides so you can review it later. Hopefully this has been informative. It was informative for me to understand the process. If you are looking for a home, if you are looking for the kind of breakdown of the process, feel free to reach out to us. We can connect you to the resources that you need to move forward. And then if you're looking or you're interested in Sage on Fountain specifically, please go visit sageonfountain.com. And we will reach out to you that way. I try not to spam people because this is specific to Section 8 to homeownership. So you reach out and we can explain more about how you can use your voucher to purchase a home in Sage or a condo in Sage and make that work for you. But tonight's session is you can use your voucher to buy anywhere in Massachusetts or just about anywhere in Massachusetts, right? So have a wonderful evening. Thank you, everyone. And if you have any questions, please send an email. We will get those answered, and we will share those answers with everyone, because I think a lot of us have the same questions, right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good.